Hey guys, welcome in. This is Brad with College Sportscast. We're going live tonight. I've got a couple of guys that's going to come on with me, and we're going to do an interview, and we're going to preview the UK versus Gonzaga college basketball game on Sunday. And Josh Link is on with me. And I should have John Hammonds joining me as well. And we're excited to have Josh on with us. Josh, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. I got you.
All right.
All right, man. I'm doing a live, so I thought I'd do it this way tonight. And I'm kind of waiting on Hammonds as well, but I sent him an invite as well. So,
Sure.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Josh, and what you do. And I know you have a podcast, New Bloods.
Yeah. New Bloods podcast. You can find us on all major platforms. And we do spaces on Twitter occasionally. We also run stuff on playback.tv/New Bloods where we commentate on live games. I'm a huge college basketball head. I've been a fan of the sport for my entire life. Zag fan since the early 90s before they were ever big time. I'm from Washington State originally, but live in Arizona now.
Right. Live in Arizona?
Yep. Yeah, I used to live in Louisville, Kentucky for about 15 years also, though.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
All right. 15 years. That's a long time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my most of my kids were born there, got married to my wife there,
Okay. So where you live at in Arizona?
Tucson now.
Tucson?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you do some writing for Gonzaga, or you just have the podcast?
Yeah, I used to run a website called Zagaholic.net. We're not really writing anything this year, just, with time constraints and job and all that, it didn't really afford me the opportunity to continue writing. But occasionally I will write something for college basketball newsletters, or for friends for their, various college basketball websites.
Okay. And how long you been doing the writing?
I've been writing since 2008 or so.
Okay.
Yeah, so quite a while.
All right. Well, John Hammonds has joined us now. John, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, man. We're doing a live.
So, quick question. How do you say your last name?
It's Linke.
Linky? I thought it was Link, but it's Linky, right?
Link.
Yeah, most people think the E is silent, but yeah, it's Linke.
Okay. I wasn't sure either. I was saying Link, so.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to make sure too, really.
Sure.
So we got a big game coming up this weekend with UK versus Gonzaga. And just so you know, I'm going to lay this out there, and you probably already know, but John and I are UK fans, so I just want to lay that out.
Yeah. That's all good. Yeah. I interact with a lot of Kentucky fans on Twitter.
Well, you said you lived in Louisville for 15 years, so you have to know a lot of UK fans, I would think.
Oh yeah, yeah. I still have longtime, friends from that area. Big UK fan friends, big Louisville fan friends too.
Right. Well, John, I'm gonna throw it to you. I'm gonna let you kind of start out any question you have for him, and go from there.
All right. Let me ask you a quick question from a Gonzaga standpoint. What do you think is the issue right now compared to other Gonzaga teams that you see?
Yeah, so we're kind of struggling a little bit with the youth of the roster. Hunter Salas and Nolan Hickman are both sophomores, but they played very sparingly last year. So in a lot of ways, they're kind of going through their freshman lumps, if you will, with their playing time so far. And, part of it too is Malachi Smith, who was a really highly rated transfer out of Chattanooga and one of my favorite players over the last couple of years. He's just had, he has to integrate into the system, and it takes time for some of these guards to, come together and play as one. We expected some lumps in the non-conference season this year, and I think you'll see we'll probably lose another game or two at least over the next couple of weeks because, we have a murderer's row of games coming up: Kentucky, Baylor, potentially Duke, maybe Purdue, West Virginia, Washington, Alabama. So, there's going to be some more opportunities for the team to kind of struggle through some things and figure out concepts and rotations. Right now, I think Mark is really trying to figure out exactly which guy he wants to be the primary ball handler. I think he wants it to be Nolan Hickman, for good reason, because he has probably the best natural skills at that position. But, Rasir Bolton did that in the Big 12 with Iowa State. He did that in the Big 10 with Penn State. So he's had a chance to run offenses before. And Malachi Smith also is a primary ball handler at times with Chattanooga as well. So, we have some options there. But, really at the end of the day, it's a matter of we need to stop turning the ball over. We need to take better care of our passing and, make sure that we're tightening up on defensive sets and not over-hedging, not giving guys too much space on the perimeter where they can get hot and go off.
Well, one thing I want to ask you about is, you was talking about Mark Few and y'all's murderous row schedule. He really has started scheduling, quite heavy in the out of conference part of the schedule for you guys. And, I wanted to know kind of what you think about that, what the schedule looks like for you guys.
Yeah, it's, every season, because our conference schedule is not the strongest in the world, we have to front load our schedule with as many big time programs as we can. And part of that is testing out the team, seeing, what we can do against tough competition. But also part of it is trying to earn the right to continue to be a top ranked team in the tournament every single season. Because you don't get those opportunities in the WCC. St. Mary's is a quality program. They're, a top 40, top 30 team most years. BYU's been up there, in recent years as well. But that's about it. You don't really have much else as far as top level competition in the league.
And to be quite honest, even though St. Mary's has had I would say above average, program, their highest seed probably is around 7 or something like that in the tournament.
I think they had a 5 seed at one point, but yeah, it's not usually a really high seed, and they don't make the tournament every season.
Right, but when they do, they're usually, they're somewhere in that. I guess you said 5 has probably been their highest, but they're usually in that 7 range or somewhere around there. Seems like most of the time.
Yeah.
Even when they have the better season.
Right.
Right. All right, Hammond, you got another question for John?
Well, and I was noticing, Gonzaga likes to push it, tempo wise.
Right.
And I think that's going to benefit both teams come Sunday because Kentucky likes to run too. And I think this game could be in the 80s, maybe the 90s. It's just, to me, I watched the game against Texas the other night, and I feel like Timmy has no help. Do you get what I'm saying? They're wanting to depend on him the whole time, but somebody else is going to have to step up because Timmy can't do it all by himself.
Yeah. I mean, Timmy's definitely the number one, piece on the team. He's, one of the favorites for National Player of the Year, has been, an All-American, stuff like that. And, as far as what we're trying to run, as far as getting him down low, getting him the looks that he needs to be able to go off in the paint, that's part of it. But also Texas played the game plan perfectly. They denied everything on the perimeter for us. They made it exceedingly tough to get the ball inside. And they were stopping ball reversals. They were getting guys, uncomfortable and out of their element because you really couldn't get the ball movement the way that we like to do that. Part of that is Texas has a lot of athletes who can get out on the perimeter and really get in your face. Not every team in the country has that. I think Kentucky does. Cason Wallace is exceptional defender and somebody I've really enjoyed watching this season so far.
He is.
But I wonder if maybe, the depth on that perimeter defense isn't quite the level of what Texas was bringing. So we'll see, whether that concept works out. I also think it's going to be really interesting to see how Kentucky kind of attacks our defensive system. False motion, diamond, what do they call it? Ball weave offense.
Right.
How Calipari likes to kind of weave guys in and out. Like that's a really interesting system, and it'll be interesting to see how our guys hedge out on that, how they, close out on some of those guys that pop out and get those open looks.
And then another thing, I was reading something. It was he might have been a Gonzaga fan or something. It was a report. He thought that, that Gonzaga would have trouble with some of Kentucky's wings Sunday, how they're bigger a little bit, and that they would struggle a little bit with some of Kentucky's guard play. What do you see in that matchup? Do you see Kentucky having an edge there, or do you think that's even? Or
yeah, I think it's it's kind of, I don't know if they're necessarily bigger. I think they're not too much bigger. They may be a little bigger here and there, but I think really what it comes down to is more about how our guys are able to watch out for Cason coming in and trying to get the steal, creating turnovers. That's been like our big problem so far this year. We are not protecting the ball. So if Kentucky is, really aggressive in the lanes and trying to create turnover opportunities, and you all get the better of us and stop us from being able to get the ball moving around, that's where I think things could fall apart for Gonzaga. That being said, I think also part of it is just simply this team is there's growing pains. They're learning how to play together, and they don't quite yet understand exactly, which angles to go at. I also think it's going to be really interesting to see how Mark decides to use the pick and roll in this game, because that's been a strength for Gonzaga in years past, but so far this season we haven't seen exceptional play in the pick and roll yet.
Well, I'll say this on the pick and roll. Kentucky the last couple of 2 or 3 years has really seemed to struggle defensively against the pick and roll at times. So that'd be definitely something to look out for on Sunday, because, you got to hedge out a little bit on that pick and roll and still be able to know how to get back, be quick getting back after the hedge out. And sometimes Kentucky struggles with that. So that'll definitely be something interesting to watch on Sunday.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, agreeing. Absolutely.
Yeah,
there's something that that hit me before the show, with you, Josh. Gonzaga's got a rough schedule coming up. Kentucky's got some tough teams coming up. What's crazy to me is one of these teams is going to have 2 losses already in November.
Right.
And and people's going to be like, well, if Gonzaga loses, the world's in. If Kentucky loses, the world's in. No. You're going to find these games in November where they're not really going to matter. They'll matter for the selection show and win these games on these neutral courts and whatnot. Not saying it's a neutral court in Spokane, but it's more or less a home game for Gonzaga. But I think it won't matter in the scheme of things once the tournament starts, because it's a different thing. It's a 0-0-0 type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think one loss in November is going to make everybody, lose their mind,
Right. Yeah. for personal reasons, I would love to win against Kentucky. For, as we've discussed, my relationship, spending a long time in Kentucky, wanting this game for a long time personally.
Right.
But that being said, I don't view, if we were to lose to Kentucky on Sunday, that's not, like you said, it's not an end of the world situation. These are specifically put in place by both coaches, these games, to test their teams, to get these guys to learn and see how they can react to different styles of play, different levels of athletes. In the case of Kentucky, Oscar Tshiebwe and Drew Timme is one of the premier matchups that we're going to see all season amongst
Absolutely. I agree
two
with
of the
that
top 5
100%.
players in the nation. So, that's a huge thing, and somebody's gonna get the better, but it's not gonna be the end of the world, like you said, and again, I think sometimes fans get a little bent out of shape about how a team comes out one night versus the other. That we were very flat against Texas, and part of that was Texas's scheme. Part of it was just we weren't playing as crisp as we normally do. And at the end of the day, I'm not upset about it. I'm excited to see how we come out against Kentucky on Sunday. It may not go well, or it might go great, and then we were right back at it again with the PK 85 next week in Portland. So,
Right.
just a lot of tough matchups to test concept, test out personnel, see how these guys interact with each other, and hopefully they'll grow as the season goes on.
One thing I
question.
mentioned. Oh, go ahead.
All right. I have a little question for you. So the other night against Michigan State, Kentucky struggled. Actually, well, Kentucky struggled, but C.J. Fredericks specifically struggled because Tom Izzo had somebody absolutely shadowing every single move he made, around screens, through screens, running all over the floor. I mean, there was somebody in his shorts basically the entire game, and CJ struggled with that. Does Gonzaga have a guy that's capable of that?
Yeah, our lockdown defender would be Hunter Salas. I would say he's one of the better lockdown defenders in the country. He just has not yet had a chance to really play a lot. So he's kind of he's a negative on offense right now. Texas kind of slacked off of him. If you watch that game and you key in on number 5 for Gonzaga and just kind of watch how they defended him,
Right.
it was almost like they went under every single ball screen. They would leave 6-7 feet between him and the perimeter. They didn't care. Like they were like, just shoot.
Just shoot the ball.
Right. He's a negative on offense right now. But on the defensive end, he's our best lockdown defender. He's the guy who's gonna shadow people. He's gonna be in your grill. He creates a lot of turnovers when he's at his best. And I think he could be that kind of player, against C.J. Frederick or even maybe Antonio Reeves, just depending upon, who Mark wants to key on.
Right.
I'll say this, going back to, the Texas game, this probably, and I look at it, there's a lot of Gonzaga fans upset, mad, but we got to look at it. This might be the best Texas team they've had probably since Kevin Durant.
Absolutely.
Based on talent, you know what I mean? And it's not going to be a horrible loss come tournament time because Texas is probably going to be a high seed.
No, absolutely. And really, if you go back to last season, we did the same thing to Texas last year in Spokane. We punched him in the mouth and did not let off the gas the entire game. Timme scored like 37 points in that game, and we manhandled them. And they came out this year, and this was like their game on the schedule, circled. They knew that they had a chance to, really come out and make an effort and show the nation what they're capable of in their brand new arena with all their students there.
Right.
And Chris Beard did that. And he proved that Texas is probably one of the top 5-7 teams in the nation, no doubt.
Yeah, I think so. And I watched the Michigan State Gonzaga game too. And, in that game, Kentucky and Gonzaga both have a common opponent with Michigan State already. And, I actually thought that both teams kind of struggled to score a little bit in that game.
Yeah. You know, when we played Michigan State, it was outside. It was on an aircraft carrier. There was some wind. It was a little cold. And those types of things really affect how teams shoot. If you go back historically and look at those games specifically that have been outside, all the teams struggle to shoot the ball in those games. So what Michigan State did, and I give credit to Tom Izzo for this, he had experience coaching in these games before, and he said, you know what, we're not going to guard the perimeter. We are going to go under every ball screen. We're going to give everybody 5 feet. We're going to pack the paint, give Sissoko as much help as possible. And as a result, Sissoko looked like an All-American in that game, in my opinion. Right. He was fantastic. He used his strength, his shot, rim protection, and he was an excellent player in that game. Maybe the best game I've seen him ever play.
Well, he looked pretty good also in the UK game after Shibwe fouled out.
Yeah. And that's, that was a big negative for Kentucky in that game. Once you got to the overtime period.
When Shibwe fouled out, he had 2 or 3 dunks and 2 or 3 big plays, rebounds and stuff after that. And he looked great for 5 minutes,
One more thing before we kind of clear up the interview. The thing that kind of on both sides that can't afford to happen, that happened in the Michigan State game, that happened in the Texas game, is breakdown on defense, like mistakes, turnovers. You've seen it, late in the Michigan State game, Kentucky, where they left guys wide open under the goal. I think this is one of them games where you can't let that happen, because on either side, if that does happen, one of these teams is going to get out to a 10, 12-point lead.
Right. Yeah. And the lack of scoring punch that Gonzaga has had this year thus far, which is very uncharacteristic of this program. That's something I'm watching. I want to see how we react, how we come out after being punched in the mouth on Wednesday. I want to see, are these guys going to come out with crisp passes, real quality backdoor cuts, things that we normally have integrated into our system that for whatever reason just haven't been there thus far. I want to see that happen in this game. If they don't, I think Kentucky could win by a good margin. If they do, this is not only going to be a close game, but, Kentucky could run into some of the similar problems we did against Texas. It's really who's going to have the hot hand, who's going to be crisp, who's going to be making the right plays, who's going to protect the ball. That's the big thing in this matchup.
You know what's going to be fun about this, though? They put it at the right spot. It's the week before Thanksgiving. There's NFL on, and then you get the primetime slot with Kentucky and Gonzaga. Everybody's going to be like, well, we're done watching the football, NFL, the daytime games. Now we get to sit back and watch Gonzaga and Kentucky play.
Right.
I think they put it in a perfect spot.
And it's a big game. I mean, like he said, this is not a game that we normally see on the schedule. And for Mark Few and Calipari to get together and scratch out a 6-year deal for UK and Gonzaga to play each other over the next 6 years is a pretty exciting thing for college basketball.
100%. This, like I said, this is for personal reasons, this was the game that I've always wanted. And to get a chance to watch this happen over the next 6 years, is going to be spectacular for me. As a college basketball fan, as a Gonzaga fan, as somebody who's lived in both Washington State and Kentucky, I can't be any more excited than getting to watch these teams play.
I think it's huge for college basketball to have these two teams match up and play, and not just this one time, on Sunday, but that it is set up for the next 6 years. It's huge for college basketball, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, so I guess one of my last questions for you, exactly how long has Drew Timme been at Gonzaga?
So he's a true senior this year. This is his 4th season.
Are you sure about this?
Absolutely. He actually still has 1 year of eligibility remaining thanks to COVID.
Oh
So
my goodness, are you
if he wanted
kidding
to
me?
come back next year also.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he still has his COVID year?
Yeah. Yeah. This is only his 4th season. So
I was actually joking the other day about Timmy. I said, he's probably been there since the Obama administration. I was having a good chuckle out of it.
it's weird how people think that Timmy is that old. I think some of it has to do with his facial hair, and how much of a grown man he looks like when he's playing in the paint. But, also the fact that Gonzaga has just been front and center on national television, in front of everybody's eyeballs for the last, 3-4 years as one of the top rated teams in the nation. Just kind of, it speaks to the level that this program has gotten to, versus where it was maybe a decade or more ago.
Right. Yeah, you're definitely right on that. I mean, being out front and being a top 5 team basically the last 3 or 4 years, with Timmy on the team, it definitely, put him in the spotlight, and he's been the best player for the last this year will be 3 years. So, on Gonzaga's team. So, part of that was just a little jab, a little joke. So,
No, yeah, I get it. Yeah, did you know Sheboy is actually older?
Sheboy, yeah, because he transferred, set out, and everything else. So yeah, technically he would have a COVID year available too. I think.
Does he? Yeah.
One thing I love about Timmy, one thing I love about him is, everybody don't like him, but he plays the game the right way.
Yeah.
And he don't show off. He just plays his game. And that's what we miss a lot in college basketball, just guys going out there and giving it their best, no matter if they're, if he don't score a lot of points, he goes in there and he fights regardless of what size he is.
Right.
And that's what I love about him, and a lot of people didn't like him during that Final Four because everybody thought he was a hot shot. And I said, listen, the kid is playing hard every single game. He's a fighter every single night.
He plays with desire. He plays with desire and passion.
He really does. Yes.
And if you can't, as a basketball fan, if you can't appreciate that, then you have an issue, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he was maybe born about 20 years too late for his skill level to translate at the the NBA level.
Right.
But had he been born back in 20, 30 years ago and played back in the 70s and 80s in the NBA, he would have been, like a Kevin McHale or something type, in the league.
Right.
But let's be real. What does that mean for us as college basketball fans? Well, we get to see more of a player at the peak of this level, a year when most people would have been gone in years past because of NIL. He gets to come back and do these magical things on the court. Same thing with Oscar Tshiebwe. I don't think I've been more excited to watch college basketball coming into a season than I have been this year with the level of talent that we're seeing, top end talent, guys coming back like Baycott, Tshiebwe, Timmy, Trace Jackson Davis, like amazing player, Hunter Dickinson. How many amazing bigs do we have in college basketball this year?
Hey, it's absolute. I've been a college basketball fan all my life. I've been watching it since the 79, 80, 81 season, somewhere in that range. And I will agree with you 100%. This year and the things that's going on for college basketball and having guys who are now making little money come back and continue to be in the college basketball realm, it really is wonderful to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's going to build this game up, and I love college basketball. College basketball is my absolute favorite sport, and I'm looking forward to this season. I'm looking forward to the UK Gonzaga game, and I agree with you that Timmy Tshiebwe matchup is going to be one hell of a matchup to watch on Sunday night.
Absolutely.
So, John, you got anything else you want to add for Josh?
I'm good, man. I just appreciate him coming on. I mean, I've kept up with you quite a bit, over my time, and I love how passionate you are about the Zags. Like you're the same way I am with Kentucky. I pretty much get into my feelings sometimes, and if they lose, I'm kind of depressed for 2 or 3 days. But see, in basketball, I'll be honest with you, football is a little different because one game you're done.
Yeah.
Basketball, you lose 1 or 2 games, you're still in the thick of things.
Right.
And that's what I love about basketball. Football, you lose 2 or 3 games and you're settling for a toilet bowl. You know what I mean?
Right.
In basketball, you lose 2 or 3 games, 4 games, you can still win the national championship.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things about college ball, and just seeing your passion for the Zags it makes me want to be more passionate for Kentucky the way you do with the Zags.
Well, I appreciate that. And, I agree. College basketball, the postseason, the March Madness is the greatest postseason in sports, period. It doesn't get any close to the level of awesomeness that we get to experience during March and April every year. And, I think that just informs how the seasons progress. And, like you said, losing a few games, it's not the end of the world. Kansas lost, I believe, 6 games last year, and they won a national championship.
Right.
And that just speaks to the level of competition they face in the Big 12. Didn't they lose to Kentucky at Lawrence last year?
They did. Pretty big.
Exactly. And that just goes to show like how sometimes you could get smacked in the mouth and you can overcome that, become resilient, and show up in March and make a run. And it doesn't matter what you did early in the season, but it informed how you become as a successful team in the postseason later in the year.
I agree with you. There's nothing more magical than March Madness. I love March Madness, and I agree it's the best ending tournament or playoffs or however you want to put it in sports, period, I think. So I want to say that I appreciate you coming on with us, talking about this game and even talking about the future of college basketball with this game over the next 6 years and stuff. I think it's important for college basketball, and I just want to say I appreciate you being on with us, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And good luck on Sunday.
Yeah, I'll say good luck to you guys as well. I'm a big Mark Few fan as well. You know that Kyle Wiltshire transferred there. He was one of my favorite players, and always pulled for him. And he's kind of the cross between the two of us. He played for both programs, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we will end this, and I just want to say thanks again, man, and I hope you have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
All right.